Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to be sharing 5 weight loss tips that a lot of people overlook. And this is really piggybacking on a lot of questions you guys had about weight loss troubleshooting and what you might be doing wrong, even if you think you're following everything the right way. So today, I wanted to share the 5 weight loss tips that I've seen a lot of people overlook. These can seem very small, but when added up, this is something I see with my clients all the time, can really help to accelerate results and actually break through plateaus. So what are you guys drinking this morning? I actually have some keto coffee left. You can't really see because there's not a ton left, but I actually for once have some keto coffee left this morning to be sipping on throughout this live stream. I have some just cool new tech I'm using as well, helping my tech game. So you guys will see that. So where are you guys at? What are you drinking right now? I see Skills Many. Hello. And then we also have Camille. Camille and Katie here. All right. Greetings from Sweden. How awesome. And then also West Palm Beach. All right. Good morning, guys. Okay. So I hope you guys are ready to dive into this topic of the 5 weight loss tips that just a lot of people are overlooking, because this is something that can really help accelerate your results. Something that I've seen happen time and time again with a lot of my clients, and actually have some specific examples as well. So this is going to be week 5 of the summer intermittent fasting challenge. I can't believe that. It's just completely blown by. It's been really amazing and fun. If you guys want to join in for the last 2 weeks, I do have the details down in the description below. Lots of really great, awesome people participating in the challenge. Hello, new subscriber from Vegas. Good morning, Abby. From Lincoln, California, Sue. Okay, wow, hi from Australia. Good morning, everyone. Okay, oops. So let's get into my fun little tech here. Look at this, wow. I'm impressive now. I'm on my tech game. So we have the 5 weight loss tips that you guys are likely overlooking. This is something I see happen a lot with my clients, as well as with some of the A and peeps too. So I wanted to bring your guys' attention to this, because it can be really frustrating if you're working toward a weight loss goal, if you think you're doing everything right and you're just not seeing results. So we're going to get into these 5 weight loss tips. Look at this tech. So excited about it. All right. So this one should not come as a surprise to a lot of the A and peeps, but I know that there are going to be some new people in the chat as well. But this one is really important, and I can't stress this enough, and it's to remove the snacking and the grazing. So with this, I actually had a client very recently who had a 2-meal structure, but was still having this like mini meal or snack in between, and was making great progress, but had plateaued. And so once we had actually taken out, because there was some level of insulin resistance, this is where this tip is actually really important. If you do have some level of insulin resistance, once we had taken out that mini meal or that snack and actually split it between those other 2 meals, so no difference in the amount she was eating, just having it allocated to those 2 meals rather than those 3, she was able to finally break through that plateau and lose another 10 pounds over the course of about a month and a half. So this is something that, especially if you do have a degree of insulin resistance, which in our last live stream last week, we talked a lot about on how this is really common in America, but across the world, that there is going to be some degree of insulin resistance or carbohydrate sensitivity. Removing snacks and grazing is really important for actually breaking through a weight loss plateau and seeing results. Because what happens is every time we eat, no matter what it is, to some degree, but every time we eat, even if it is a snack or a big meal, you are going to be secreting that storing hormone insulin. And so that means more time that the body is out of fat burning mode. Whereas if you have a 3-meal or 2-meal structure, that's more time that your body has those gaps between meals and is able to tap into fat burning mechanisms. So this one is really important, especially if you do have a degree of insulin resistance. And if you are curious on how you can tell if you have a degree of insulin resistance, I did a shorter video this last week on the 10 signs you're eating too much sugar. That's a really great one to reference, as well as last week's live stream on carbohydrate sensitivity. But this one is a really big one that you can see a lot of results with purely by just shifting how you're eating your meals rather than the amounts even. And I talk about the 3 meal or 2 meal structure. This also depends on the degree of insulin resistance that one might have. So if you are more insulin resistant, this is where a 2 meal structure might work better. Whereas if you are more insulin sensitive, a 3 meal structure can work perfectly fine. And if everyone can, if you have questions, if you have questions, can you just put them in the chat and put 4 or 3 question marks before and after? It's a lot easier for me to actually find them. So Leah is asking 5 fat loss tips. There it goes. Instead of weight, this is all focused on fat loss. On my channel, I don't talk about overall weight loss because that isn't what we want. We want fat loss. We don't want to lose muscle. So whenever you come across one of my videos, if it's talking about weight loss, you can be assured we're talking about fat loss, not just overall weight. We want real results that will actually help you achieve your goals, not decreasing muscle mass in the process. So good question. Hi from Canada. Good morning. Oh, good morning. You like the live charts. Awesome. Good. Happy to hear that. Took me a little bit to figure this out. Okay, so the next really important strategy here is to actually use intermittent fasting. Now, this is something that I have seen where, especially lately, I think a lot of people misunderstand the process of intermittent fasting and think that they're using it when they aren't. So it's important to understand with intermittent fasting what breaks a fast and what doesn't. Especially if weight loss or fat loss is your goal, it's really important to understand what's going to cause that insulin spike so that you can actually get the benefits from using intermittent fasting. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys. There it goes. All right, tech on point. So there's a bunch of common things that I've seen that people think that can be fine to be had during the fasting period, but actually break a fast and actually work against your goals anyway. So here's just a few. I do have some other ones listed as well, but gummy vitamins and supplements. This is a really, really big one. Gummy vitamins and supplements have a lot of sugar in it. Each serving of it has anywhere between 1 to 3. I've even seen some that have 6 grams of sugar within the gummy vitamins or supplements. So if you're having multiple different types of gummy vitamins or supplements, then that can add up to be 18, 20, 25 grams of sugar that you're having during your fasting period. This is something I just wouldn't recommend using in general, are the gummy vitamins or supplements, purely because they are going to be high in sugar. And if you already are having difficulties losing weight, this is just going to further spike the storing hormone insulin. So instead, you can always switch over to the capsule form. Most capsule forms of supplements are not going to break a fast. So you're even set there in terms of having it during your fasting period. But there are some exceptions. So any amino acid or protein based. So here it actually goes to the pre-workout and protein shakes example. Protein will also spike insulin. And I actually talked about this at the meetup on Saturday, and I have that streamed to Instagram as well. But one question that came up is, do protein shakes break a fast? And this is something that also breaks a fast. Even if it doesn't contain any sugar, it's literally just pure protein that will cause that storing hormone insulin to spike a bit. And that can shift the body out of the fat burning mode. So protein shakes, definitely one that you want to watch out for, but also the pre-workouts. So pre-workouts, if you're going to have pre-workout, I always recommend just using coffee or tea, just because you know that it's not, you have control over what's in it and how it's going to affect your body's wellness and weight loss goals. But also a lot of pre-workouts are going to have a significant amount of sugar. So of course the sugar is going to make it so that you are going to get that spike in the storing hormone insulin, and that will break your fast, and you aren't getting those fat burning benefits of intermittent fasting when you have some type of sugar during the fast. So the other really important example here, the green juices and smoothies. Green juices, I think more green juices is the one that most people will see and assume that it's something that you can have during the fast because it's a liquid or because it's just the vegetables. But pretty much vast generalized statement, but all vegetables are going to have some energy component, and it's largely going to come from carbohydrates. Granted, it's going to be very, very low, but it can still break that 1 gram of carbohydrates or protein rule of thumb that we stick by to make sure that you aren't going to get that storing hormone insulin spiked. So all of these, especially the pre-workout, the protein shakes or the green juices or smoothies, those are perfectly fine to be having during the eating window, but it's something that will break your fast and it will cause that insulin spike outside of the eating window. So if you are using intermittent fasting, it's really important to know what is actually breaking a fast and what isn't, so that you can get the benefits of intermittent fasting. I have, if you guys haven't seen on my website, I have Autumn Nutrition /blog. I have a whole section on does it break a fast? And I have a ton. I'm always updating it, but I have, I think, like 60 different common things that people assume can be had during the fasting period, so that you can actually go through and check them all out and see if something's going to break your fast, like lemon juice or turmeric, coffee, tea, all of those things, collagen. I have all of those that are on the blog, so you can check those out for more detail if you ever confuse on, I wonder if this breaks a fast. Just check that out. It's Autumn Nutrition /blog. And then there's a whole section on does it break a fast? So a good one there. Here's a really good question. So Chai Kristen Journals says, does your bulletproof matcha break a fast? So the matcha latte, the keto matcha latte, where it uses butter or coconut oil or cacao butter. So this is where we have to look at what spikes the storing hormone insulin. So this is the fasting mimicking state, because even though you are consuming something that contains fat, fat doesn't spike the storing hormone insulin. So you can actually still be in that fasting mimicking state where insulin is low and fat burning is still turned on when you're having something like the keto matcha latte or the keto coffee. There are caveats for when you'd want to use this. I go a lot into it in the complete intermittent fasting bundle, which I do have listed down in the description below. Especially from a gut healing perspective, you might not want to use the keto coffee at certain times, but in terms of the fat loss or fat burning, it will not break a fast because it doesn't cause the storing hormone insulin to spike. Oh, Jeanette, good morning. Vacationing in Puerto Rico. Jeanette has a really amazing story. If you guys want to check that out, it's also on my blog. She's had some really amazing progress. Have fun in Puerto Rico. Okay, here's a really great question. So Grace said, if I have heavy cream in my afternoon coffee, will it break or mess with the migrating motor complex that my body needs to do? So this goes back to what I was talking about with the keto coffee and how there's caveats for when you'd want to use it. Technically, heavy cream, if you're using about 1 tablespoon or less, will not break a fast because it won't cause that insulin to spike. However, if you are looking at it from a gut healing perspective, you want a true fast, especially between your meals. This means just water, and really, to be on the safe side, I recommend just sticking with water between meals if you're looking from a migrating motor complex gut healing perspective. Armand says, coffee makes me energetic. Same. That's why I like to have one right before this. Good afternoon, Kelly. Okay. Keto coffee cheers. So we have some other keto coffee cheers going on. Florida, cheers from coast to coast. Okay, so now let's go on to, let me see if there's anything else. Oh, so instead, this is where I was going to, instead during that fasting period, make sure that you're actually using intermittent fasting and getting the benefits of the fat loss benefits from intermittent fasting. You want to stick with things that won't spike the storing hormone insulin. So that can include anything like pure fat sources, which is what we talked about with the butter, the grass-fed butter, the ghee, coconut oil. If you use MCT oil, I personally don't usually recommend it, but if you use MCT oil, that is a pure fat source as well. But any type of water, any type of tea, unsweetened tea, black coffee, all of those are great minerals or electrolytes during the fasting period, which you really should be doing if you're using intermittent fasting. All of those are perfectly fine. Even a small squeeze of lemon or a small amount of ginger in your water, all of those can be fine to not break a fast, but you really need to make sure you're familiarizing yourself with what it is that actually breaks a fast and what it is and what doesn't break a fast, so that you can use intermittent fasting and actually see the benefits of it. Which again, if you guys are new to intermittent fasting, it's really easy to do it wrong. So I really recommend you check out the complete intermittent fasting bundle that I have. It's listed down in the description below. It's what all the A and peeps are using. Really great resource for you guys, especially if you're brand new. All right. So this is a really great question. It's a little bit off topic, but this is a really great question, especially, actually not too off topic because it is regarding weight loss as well. How much protein does a senior need? So actually, as you age, you do need to get more protein in. This is because as we age, we get more breakdown from our bones and our muscles. So it is really important to actually slightly increase your protein as we get older. I do have a really great protein calculation. You might want to look at more of that 1.4 to 1.6 range when calculating your protein needs. That'll make sense once you see the video. But I have a really simple one. If you check out, just type how to calculate protein autumn on YouTube, it'll pop right up. It's a 3-minute video teaching you how to calculate your protein. That's a really great question because protein for a body recomposition goal is really important. So this is where exactly what we're talking about, maintaining muscle mass, not losing muscle mass, and also losing body fat. So if you want to be doing that, it's really important to make sure that you're first things first, getting up protein. But I talk about that all the time. So I wanted to go over 5 other tips today that you guys maybe need either a reminder of or hadn't heard before. But great question regarding protein. Okay, so Timu says, I've never understood the logic in lemon not breaking it fast. I do consume it a lot, but never when I fast, I'm assuming is what is said. So it just depends. I mean, it really depends on the individual's insulin response to something like lemon juice. If you're using a very small amount, good rule of thumb that I like to follow just to help make sure that you can have guidelines for what can or can't break a fast is sticking with less than 1 gram of carbohydrates or protein during your fasting period. And that's even when those are combined. That way it should be under the amount needed to spike the storing hormone insulin and break that fast. But you also, something else that you could also do if you are a little bit more wary on using something like lemon juice, but you still want lemon flavor, is doing something like an edible lemon essential oils or the lemon rind, where you can get the flavor of lemon in your water. If you want to be really cautious on not spiking the storing hormone insulin, that way you're still getting the flavor, but you aren't getting any of the carbohydrates, you're just getting that fat source. Really great question. Yes, fast. I figured that's what you're saying. Oh, Kitty. Kitty is an OG A&P. So good morning, Keto Coffee. Cheers, everyone. Love the new setup, Autumn. Thank you so much. Took my brain melting a little to figure it out, but it was worth it. Okay, so let's go on to this next one, which I can get this going. All right, perfect. Okay, so this is one that if you guys are subscribed to my email newsletter, you might have seen me talk a little bit about this in today's email on having treat meals, not treat days. So this is where, we talk about how treat meals can actually be really beneficial for the longevity of achieving your weight loss or wellness goals, because you do have that more emotional component around food. Some foods that aren't going to be in line with your goals, but you want to still have those incorporated because they have a cultural or sentimental value to you. And that should be an important part of actually maintaining your progress and actually seeing results long term. But there is a right way and a wrong way to go about this. There's actually a study, and I've shared this study a few times before, where they had a scheduled treat meal put in place for, they had 2 different groups. One that had a scheduled treat meal, it was 1 treat meal a week that was actually scheduled, and then the other that didn't have any treat meals. And they actually saw the same amount of weight loss for both groups, but the group that had the scheduled treat meal were less likely to fall off the wagon, for lack of a better term. So having treat meals can definitely be beneficial, but you want to make sure you're doing it right. And this is where, this is actually something, if you guys have the new 6-week summer meal plan, you've seen that I have my whole treat meal structure that you guys can check out, also listed down description below. But one thing that we want to make sure that we're looking at is that it's a true meal, not day. So rather than having it be like, okay, it's Saturday morning, I'm going to wake up and start with a vanilla latte and a donut. And then for lunch, I'm going to have a pizza. And then for dinner, I'm going to have pasta. That's a full-blown treat day where you're likely going to feel pretty crummy the next day as a result. And it's also going to be a lot harder to bounce back just because of those more fluctuating blood glucose levels, easier to continue those cravings if you have a full day where you're consuming things that'll not work towards your weight loss or wellness goals. So instead, a good thing that I like to recommend, and just to give you a little sneak peek into the 6-week summer meal plan, is to try and schedule it as one meal as either dinner or dessert. I never really recommend having the treat, if possible, be it earlier in the day. So not like your first or your second meal, because if you start off the day, and this is just something I've seen from personal experience as well as with clients, if you start off first thing, I have all my water here so I don't choke on my own breath. If you start off first thing with something that's really high in sugar, really high in refined starches, that'll make it so you start off that really big spike in blood glucose and a really big fall. And that fall is going to happen all throughout the day as a result, because your body is, it's now trying to bring it back up quickly. So it's going to crave another sugary substance. So all day you're going to get those ups and downs, and continued cravings throughout the day. The reason why I recommend keeping it to dinner or dessert is because you can have your usual meals earlier in the day with your first or your second meal. And then at dinner, plan on having something that is going to be that quote treat, like the pasta or some type of dessert. That way, you don't have those fluctuating blood glucose levels all day. You're not going to be craving those types of foods all day, but you still get to have that treat in the evening. Not to mention, if you're doing this the right way, especially with that treat meal structure that I talk about in the new 6-week summer meal plan, if you do it the right way and you eat enough of the right types of satiating foods earlier, you're not going to be as hungry come dinner time or come dessert time. And you're less likely going to have high amounts of those foods that are less in line with your goals. You'll still be able to eat the amounts, you'll still be able to eat that food, but you won't need as much to satisfy that craving because you came into that meal satiated. So a big thing here, if you have noticed that you're incorporating treat meals, but maybe they've turned into treat days rather than treat meals, is to go back, plan out those treat meals, have it be something that you really love, have it be something that excites you, but try and have it be around the dinner or dessert time, and still have your normal meals earlier so that you can still maintain your results, still have those stable blood glucose levels, and go into that meal more satiated. Yeah, so Becca, who's actually part of the AN team, said planning the treat meal later in the day helps me really enjoy it and not feel like I need to eat a ton during the day. Absolutely. And actually a big side tip here is to make sure that you're not eating less at your usual meals earlier in the day. So like for your breakfast and your lunch before you have your treat meal. It's a common mistake I see with these treat meals is that people will consume less protein, less fiber, less fats at that first and second meal to make up for what they're going to eat later. That completely goes around the fact that we're trying to get you satiated going into that meal so that you can still enjoy that treat, but not have to eat higher amounts of it that will cause that really big spike in glucose and really big spike in that storing hormone insulin. So really good point. Here's a good question, if I can bring this up. Which has more electrolytes, Celtic sea salt or pink Himalayan salt? Are both okay for morning water? Both are okay for morning water. I actually also have a blog post on my website comparing the two. I usually prefer Celtic sea salt purely because what makes the Himalayan salt pink is that it is going to be contaminated with iron oxide. For some people, that can be a problem depending on your inflammation levels. But if you have that on hand, it's also a good option to use. Mega NZ says how to take a probiotic, empty, full stomach, time of day. You know, the thing about probiotics is not everyone necessarily needs them. And in fact, if you have a history of IBS, it might be counterproductive, could make things worse. So before you start taking things like probiotics or various supplements, I would first assess if it's actually necessary for you. If you have a history of bloating, SIBO, IBS, you likely already have some type of bacterial overgrowth that needs to be addressed first. So I know that doesn't really answer your question on the time of day, but just backing it up first, we have to make sure that it's something that will actually be useful for you. Okay, Kelly says, is a treat dinner plus treat dessert overdoing it? Really depends on the person's carbohydrate sensitivity. If you find that you can incorporate a treat dinner plus a treat dessert and still achieve your goals and still bounce back fairly quickly, great. You might be more carbohydrate sensitive. But if you find that you're not making progress and you're incorporating a treat dinner and a treat dessert, then you might want to pick one or the other so that you can start making more progress. Wait, is this live now? Yes, it's live right now. Hey, from Norway. Okay, so Jimmy is saying, hey, Autumn, I've been on the carnivore diet since January 20. I weighed 547. Now I'm 397. Congratulations, Jimmy. That's amazing. I love your videos, but I'm curious about the fasting times. What's the best way to start? 18, 24, or 36? Thank you. If you're new to intermittent fasting, I actually really recommend that you start off with a shorter fast. I did a live stream actually, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago on intermittent fasting schedules. It says intermittent fasting schedules for women, but it would still be a good, useful one for you to check out. But I usually recommend starting off with a shorter fasting time and then easing into it, especially if you are following more of a carnivore diet where you are going to get satiated pretty quickly because you are eating pure animal-based sources of food. Then you want to make sure you can get enough for your nutrient needs within your eating window. So first start off with a shorter time, and then you can always push it up to 14 or 16 hour and see how your body feels. Congratulations, Jimmy, though. That's amazing. Okay. Nerlande says, hi, Autumn. I saw I was gaining weight with keto coffee. Is that possible? I still felt full for when I broke my 16-hour fast. Yeah, depending on your baseline insulin levels. So if you have a history of insulin resistance and your fasting insulin level is already high, which is something you can have your doctor test out for you. You can just ask your doctor for a fasted insulin test. I have found that keto coffee is not necessarily a great choice at that time until the insulin levels are more accounted for. Really, when insulin is a lot higher is when I have noticed it tends to be an issue, or when insulin levels are higher in a fasted state. However, with that being said, I have just, again, historically speaking, from various clients who thought they're gaining weight because of keto coffee. When we dug into their diet, looked into their lifestyle, there tended to be other larger, more glaring factors that needed to be considered first, like protein, sleep, stress, the amount of sugar that was eaten in the day, all of that. So, there can be a time and a place, like I mentioned, for keto coffee. It doesn't necessarily work out for everyone. However, that being said, I would also take a look at your overall lifestyle and meals as well. Okay, I'm going to go on. Keep putting the questions on here. This is amazing. Yes, I agree, Robin. Thank you. Love how you can bring up the questions on the screen. This way I don't have to scan the chat to see where you are. Great upgrade to your stream. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to go on to this next question, or this next point here. Oh, so this is me talking about the 6-week summer meal plan, since it does have the treat meal structure in there. It is a limited release program. So if you guys want to check it out, there's about 2 more weeks left where you can grab it. Once you have it, you own it for life. But if you want to check it out, it does have the 6-week meal by meal planning, recipes, a ton of new information. So if you want to check it out, it's listed down description below. Also includes that treat meal structure and the PMS protocol, which is very, very helpful if you notice that your sugar cravings can be a little out of control during that 1 week before you start your period. So definitely a good option for you guys to check out. 2 weeks left for you to grab it, and it's listed down description below. Don't want to miss out on that one. All right, so this next one here is to walk more. You guys know that I love walking. It's a really great tool to help decrease stress levels, help decrease the cortisol levels, especially if you can walk outside. So this is something that if you have the opportunity to, now that it's maybe for some people, if you live in a very hot environment, as we start to get into late August, early September, hopefully it's cooling down for you a bit where you can get walking outside more. But if you can walk more, try and walk outside, because you get that double whammy of just the increased activity, which not from a calorie perspective, but because every time we actually flex our muscles, get our muscles contracting, it helps to make our bodies more insulin sensitive. The more insulin sensitive we are, the easier it is to tap back into fat burning mechanisms. So that's where activity and exercise can be a really great tool. But if you're currently using walking as your main strategy, I would either check your phone if you have, on your phone where you can do check how many steps you get in per day, or if you do have a step tracker. I'm not wearing mine right now because I get like 2,000 steps just from waving my arms around during a live stream. But if you have some type of step tracker and you can see where you're at right now, what your baseline is, if you're getting on average, let's say 6,000 or 8,000 steps, try adding an extra 2,000 steps per day on top of that. That 2,000 steps per day can really add up in terms of getting the muscles contracting and helping to improve insulin sensitivity. So definitely you'll want to make sure that you're trying to increase walking more, but also trying to get more outside. And that goes back to the cortisol response. And especially if you do have difficulties with weight gain around the belly. Weight gain around the belly is tied to 2 really big things. First of all, is going to be insulin resistance. So if we can get more activity in, that can help, and it's been shown in multiple studies to help improve insulin sensitivity. So that helps with weight gain around the belly right there, but also with the stress levels. There's another study that I reference quite a bit in my videos that you guys can check out, where it's called urban nature experiences. If you can get outside for at least 15 minutes per day, that it helps to significantly decrease the serum cortisol levels, which just means the cortisol in your body. So that also from the stress perspective can help from the weight gain around the belly aspect. I've had this with quite a few of my clients where they have like high up jobs, high executive jobs, and they just simply add in a 15 or 20 minute walk at their lunchtime, even, if there's a track by their office or even just walking around the neighborhood of their office. And they've already noted just from a stress level, how much it can help to decrease stress, just what they're actually feeling. But if we can consistently increase the walking by that even 2,000 extra steps per day, and then also get that walking outside, it's a really great strategy to help decrease or increase fat burning mechanisms by addressing the stress as well as the insulin sensitivity. One good structure I have on here, so this is my personal structure that I do for walking, is that I always aim to have 120 to 60 minute longer walk per day. That could be usually first thing in the morning, maybe at lunch, I'll add in another one if I have time, but I always make sure to have 120 to 60 minute walk in per day. And then every hour, if I'm really on top of it, if you have like a Fitbit, then you're aware of this, or even an Apple Watch, I believe they have something similar, getting up for that 1 to 2 minutes every hour and just getting those extra steps in to help get the muscles contracting and make you more insulin sensitive. Just helps to break up how often you're going to be more stagnant and sitting and not contracting your muscles. So it helps improve insulin sensitivity from that aspect, even just consistently getting in that 1 to 2 minutes of walking every hour. So if you do have, does anybody, let me know in the chat actually, does anyone use a Fitbit, or let me know in the comments below as well if you're watching the playback. Anyone use a Fitbit? Do you use an Apple Watch? Do you use your phone? I know a lot of people do use their phone as well, but do you use something to help track your steps? And if so, what's your average step count usually? I personally try and get minimum 12K just because I've found that helps me just feel more energized when I'm at 12,000 steps. But if I can get more than that, even better. So let me know in the chat what it is, how much that you guys usually get. Yeah, Katie, I love walking. I use a Fitbit. Same. Leah says Apple Watch, also great. That's Trevor, my fiance. He loves using an Apple Watch. So Donna says 8,500. Fantastic. So Donna, try adding on an extra 2,000 steps on there, and let's see how you start feeling. Katie, so do we need to be concerned about the EMS from Fitbit? That is something that, there's some research diving into it, but also it's not super conclusive. What I usually like to do is just not wear it at night. So if you're concerned about the EMF exposure, just trying to make sure that you're not wearing it at night. So you're just simply cutting out 8 hours of EMF exposure right there. Lindsay says Fitbit, about 8,000. I try to get a 3-mile walk every morning. That's fantastic, Lindsay. Great job. Apple Watch 6,000. How many different Apple Watches are there? I'm so behind in tech. Timu says, I find 10K pretty easy, actually. I recommend trying it. You might be surprised. I agree, especially if you can get up multiple times throughout the day with those 2 minute steps, 2 minutes worth of steps every hour. It can really start to add up. So if you even just get that one morning walk and then get up every hour just to get some movement in, can really help. Katie, okay, thank you. 12 to 13K steps a day. That's fantastic. Yeah, sometimes my Apple Watch is off with my steps too. I've seen that before. So that's why I'm personally a Fitbit fan. I have seen that the Apple Watch can be a little bit off in terms of how many steps you're getting. Trevor has an Apple Watch and I have a Fitbit, and we'll be doing the same activity all day. And somehow he'll have 2,000 or 4,000 more steps than me. And it'll be like when we're going to Disneyland or something where we're walking together all day at the same amount. So I don't know. But if you could even use that as your baseline, understand what your baseline is, and then try to get 2,000 steps above, even if it's just a little inaccurate, it can still give you an idea of how much to shoot for. That's a really great question. So is walking, not jumping in place on a trampoline, a good sub if you can't walk outside? Yeah, that's fantastic. So if you have a trampoline or a rebounder, that is something that can help even with the lymphatic system. So yeah, you can definitely use that as an alternative if you can't get outside. any type of, if we can just get the muscles contracting, that's the big thing to keep in mind here. We just want to get the muscles contracting, because every time we can contract the muscles, it's going to help make the body more insulin sensitive. This is because it helps to soak up glucose from the blood supply and make it so that the body doesn't need as much insulin to be secreted in order to get that blood glucose monitored. Oh, hello from Greece. What time is it there? Is it pretty late over there? Becca says, I know I'm considering a Fitbit now. I have the Charge 4 and I really like it. So if you guys are looking for one, not affiliated. Connie says, Fitbit, aim for 10,000 a day and usually hit it. Great job. Yeah, 10,000 is not, I have a video on this on like, does the 10,000 steps per day really matter? The 10,000 steps isn't specifically what really matters, but I would just look at it as trying to get 2,000 above where you were yesterday. So if you can just even get more than what you're getting previously, that's 2,000 steps more of you flexing your muscles, contracting your muscles, and getting more insulin sensitive. Okay, here's a great one. So I find with intermittent fasting and low carb, I get leg cramps. How can I get more potassium and stay low carb, no sugar? So if you don't actually have enough sodium, then you'll lose more potassium. Potassium you can largely get from food. If you're eating, green leafy vegetables, for example, you will get a good amount of potassium. But if you aren't getting enough sodium, that can cause even more potassium to be released. So this is why it's really important not to overlook sodium. I talk about getting in the Celtic sea salt. I have quite a few videos on that. I talk about it in the complete intermittent fasting bundle as well, which also listed down description below. But it's really important to make sure that you are getting your electrolytes in. And if you're also getting leg cramps, it might be more magnesium than anything else. So if you want to check out, I do have a video on magnesium. I have a video on electrolytes. I also have a really great brand I recommend, Element, where if you check out, I think it was one of my last videos, the 10 signs you're eating too much sugar. I have a discount code with them where you can get 8 free Elements packets. And they actually have a combination of sodium, potassium, and magnesium. So it's an electrolyte replacement that was made just for fasting in mind. So you can definitely check that one out. But really great question. Oh, my cousin's on here. Hi, baby cousin. I bring my iPhone with me on hikes and walks. iPhones are also really good. I have found maybe just with Apple in general, I found that for some reason it can be a little bit off with steps, but whatever you can use, that's really great. Yeah, Katie, DM me after and we can talk about that. I want to hear which one you're talking about. Okay, so this next one is a really important one, and actually funny that I was just talking with Katie right there, because I do have Katie as a really great example for this. But cutting out stevia, especially paired with high-fat foods. Now, this is if you've noticed that you're not achieving your weight loss goals, if you've hit a plateau, and if you're using things that do contain stevia in it, especially when paired with the high-fat foods. This is because sugar, which stevia isn't a sugar, but it does have that sweet flavor. But when you combine sugar and fats, it has this bliss point. It's just called a bliss point, where it's easy to bypass our usual satiety hormones and eat well beyond what our body needs. When we eat the proper amounts of protein and fat, we actually have internal cues that tell our body we don't need to keep eating. It shuts off cravings and it works like a charm. This is why I don't advocate for calorie counting, because when you actually are getting enough of the right types of foods, you don't even have to be hungry or count in order to achieve a weight loss goal. But a lot can go out the window when you combine it with something like stevia. And this is because, I'm not seeing studies specifically on this, but from working with clients one-on-one, I have seen that when you have monk fruit or stevia, these zero sugar types of sweeteners, and you pair it with something that's rich in fat, and if you aren't seeing those weight loss results that you're looking for, it seems to have this type of bliss point issue where it's similar to just having sugar itself, where you're eating beyond what your body actually needs because you're combining that sweet flavor with the fat. Now, again, this doesn't mean this is the case for everyone, but if you have seen that you are incorporating quite a bit of stevia or monk fruit rich foods, especially when they are combined with fat, and you aren't achieving your weight loss goals, or if you're even gaining weight, then this is definitely worth checking out, because let me see. Let me get this tech. All right, there it goes. Because Katie, who's actually in the chat right now as well, Katie actually experienced this exactly. So I've shared Katie's story. We have the interview with Katie as well on YouTube if you guys want to check it out. But Katie was having stevia and monk fruit and wasn't really seeing the results she was looking for, removed that and was actually able to start seeing those results. So definitely something that if you haven't seen results yet and you are using quite a bit of stevia paired with some type of high fat like the keto ice creams, or if you're eating a lot of fat bombs, for example, then it's worth removing those and seeing how your body responds. Yeah, okay. Blaine says, does allulose work in the same way as stevia, or is it okay to use in coffee? I found that any type of sweet flavor, this really depends on the person. Some people are perfectly fine with it. If you are more carbohydrate sensitive, you likely are going to be especially fine with a lot of these more non-nutritive sweeteners. But if you find that you are not making progress, and if you have hit a plateau, this is where you can take a look at those non-nutritive sweeteners, especially when combined with fat, and remove those. It's still going to be a better option than sugar because you don't get the immediate glucose response. So if you guys tuned in or were part of my Saturday meetup, I have also, I shared the meetup live on Instagram if you guys want to check it out at Automel Nutrition, or at Automel_nutrition on Instagram. But I posted that live stream and I talk about stevia and how it can cause some issues. So it's a good one to check out. Going back to the steps, if you're part of the Fitbit, Anna says, if you're part of the Fitbit community, I find joining step challenges a push for me. So for weekend challenges, I push myself to hit 20K or more steps per day. I used to be obsessed with those step challenges. I would always challenge all my friends, and you would tune into the app and look to see where they had just logged into, and if they had like 2,000 more steps than you, then I'd be like, okay, Trev, we need to go on a walk. So definitely, I agree. Those step challenges can be a really good way to help increase your motivation to get out and get those steps in. Okay. Oh, interesting. So yeah, JC said sweeteners give me hot flashes / sweats, including monk fruit and stevia. That's really interesting because there is some research on how postmenopausal or menopausal symptoms can be really tied to insulin and insulin resistance. So that's curious. I wonder if you're getting that same response then with the non-nutritive sweeteners. Yeah, so Katie said, I honestly wasn't anticipating seeing any results when I removed stevia. Yeah, it's crazy how much it can have an effect on the body. Okay, so then from here, guys, I want to still answer some of your questions, but I do have a question for you guys. Which tip resonates the most with you? Like, which one were you like, oh my gosh, mind blown, I need to start doing right away? I'm just really curious to see which one it is that struck a chord with most people. So we had the removing the snacks or the grazing, actually using intermittent fasting, having treat meals, not treat days, walking more, and then cutting out the stevia. Is there one that you guys feel you're going to either have to start implementing or that you've implemented in the past and you've seen a lot of great results with? So let me know in the comments. I'm going to go through and answer some of your guys' questions. Let me see if I can find them on here. Oh, awesome. So, oops. Hi from Houston. I bought your cookbook over the weekend and I've enjoyed the recipes I've tried so far. Currently digging the blueberry almond bowl. Yum. Yes. So happy you're loving the recipes. If you like what you're doing and if you like what you're eating, it's a lot easier to stick with what you're doing because, you actually like it. And that's a big thing that I focus on with my channel, with my cookbooks, with my programs, is making meals that are actually tasty, will make you feel satisfied, and will actually help you achieve your goals. Because with that trifecta there, it makes it pretty simple to continue achieving your goals. Renee says, hi, sorry I'm late. Is monk fruit sweetener bad to add to black coffee or cream of wheat? So this is where it can, if you want to rewind about like 10 minutes, I just went over this, but it depends on the person. Just to answer that quickly, it depends on the person. But if you notice that you aren't achieving your goals and you are including quite a bit of monk fruit or stevia, it's worth experimenting with removing. Oops. Okay, so remember guys, put question marks before and after your question so it's easier for me to find. So Connie says, going back to my question of the day, which tip are you going to start using? Connie says, having treat meals and not treat days is a big one for me. Yeah, I think it's easy for all of us to fall into that trap. We think it's the weekend and we think that it's time to indulge on all the things, but not only will that not make you feel great, it's not going to help you achieve your goals either. So Connie, sounds like that's a really good one for you to start practicing on incorporating the treat meal structure, especially, and making sure that you're feeling satisfied on the weekends too. So D said, I think I need to increase protein, drink more water and walk more. Yeah, the protein, especially I found for women, is a big one because most women are not getting enough protein. So definitely if you guys haven't checked out my 3 minutes of how to calculate your protein video, just type how to calculate your protein autumn and it'll pop right up on YouTube. But that's a really important one to just get an idea of how much protein you need. It's also going back to the 6-week summer meal plan. It is in there on a step-by-step guide on how to calculate your protein needs. There's actually a lot of really great, amazing new information in there, including the treat meal structure, as well as the PMS protocol and the 6 weeks of meal by meal planning, and all of those really great new recipes. So there are only about 2 weeks left for you to be able to grab that. It is down in the description below if you guys want to check that out. That's what the AM Peeps are currently using, and you'll have it for life once you have it, but it's a limited release program. Yeah, so Dominic, this is huge. So adding some resistance training to my walking helped me get past my plateau. I 100% agree with this. This actually was a step that I was going to add into the tips as well. But I found that even just the walking itself for a lot of people can make a lot of progress. But if you have already upped your walking and if you are on the more insulin resistant side, adding in the resistance training can really help as well to improve insulin sensitivity. And that's because you're contracting your muscles more. So you're contracting your muscles more. It's requiring more of the sucking up of the glucose from your blood supply and making your body more insulin sensitive. So definitely if you've already experimented with increasing the walking and you're still at a plateau and you've already addressed all your food, then adding in the resistance training can really help as well. Granted, food will still be the number one priority. So if you haven't addressed your food first, make sure you do that. Check out my videos, check out the complete intermittent fasting bundle listed down in the description below. All those are great resources. Yeah, having treat meals, not treat days. I think that's a big one for all of us to just remember as well. I've totally done that as well, where, it's the weekend and you're like, oh, but it's the weekend. But definitely didn't wake up feeling great the next day. Here's a really great one. So virtual Viola, walking, because I don't sit for my job, but I know going outside will remove my stress level, which might be why I've plateaued. Absolutely. Yeah, stress can have a really crazy response on increasing insulin resistance. Stress can also make your sleep worse, and that in itself can also increase insulin resistance. So all of those really great things to remember. Here's a really great question. So Ramadan says, how can I stop feeling tired and snacking a lot in the afternoon, 2 to 6 p.m.? First things first, go check out my protein video. If you aren't getting enough protein, you will never feel satiated. Protein is the key, most important factor to feeling satiated. When you have enough both protein and fat, so that combination actually helps to bring your satiety hormones up enough where you should feel full and satisfied and not crave sugar for about 4 hours. So if you notice that you are craving food within 1 to 2 hours, or if you need to eat every few hours, you likely are either not getting enough protein or not enough fat. Those are the 2 areas that if you are snacking or if you're craving sugar that you really need to address. Barbara, hello from Mission Viejo, California. Hello. Yeah, so thanks, Dominic. I do yoga every day, but I think I need to add more resistance. Yeah, definitely resistance training can be a really great one. Even just body weight training can be huge on push up, like calisthenic style, push up, pull ups. Those are all really great as well. Okay, let me see if I understand this question. Regarding treat meals, is it the same if you divided the 1 treat meal over 5 days versus having the 1 treat meal in one go? So are you saying like if you had, just trying to understand how this would work. Like let's say if it was, let's give that example of pasta as the treat meal, if you had a bowl of pasta that you then split into tablespoon servings over 5 days, I would still recommend, just because all of those more treat meal foods are going to have that insulin, that higher insulin response. And if you have refined foods or refined sugars every day, even in smaller amounts, depending on your insulin sensitivity, can still be an issue. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I still would recommend keeping it to more on that one meal on that one day. Okay. Susie says, Autumn, I quote you to my husband all the time, treat meal, not treat day. Well, I'm glad I can be of help. I have people all the time when I meet them in person, they go, I have you in my head. And whenever I'm making a meal, I'm like, okay, where's my protein? I just hear Autumn's voice. I hope it's a good thing. Okay, my cousin has a question. On strength training days, how do I know I'm eating enough? I do this while I'm fasting in the morning. So on strength training, I mean, the biggest thing that we always want to do is looking at your hunger levels. And again, addressing it by your protein and your fat first. What I usually recommend if you do feel hungrier on strength training days is actually increasing your fat, not your protein, because your protein should be pretty much consistent unless you're, an elite athlete and you're doing multiple workouts a day, or you're really looking to increase muscle mass. It's just staying around that 1.4 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. That'll make sense when you guys check out my 3-minute video on how to calculate your protein needs. But still sticking within that amount of protein on each day will ensure that you have enough amino acids. But if you find that on those strength training days that you are still hungry, then that's where increasing the fats, which will be your energy source, will be really important. So I would just go based off of your hunger level, and first things first, making sure you're getting the protein in. So if you get the protein in, and if you're not hungry, then you have those amino acids needed for recovery. But if you do find that you are still hungry, add in that extra 1 to 2 servings of fats. Great question, cousin. SD says, what are your thoughts on fruit while trying to lose weight? Really, it depends on the person's carbohydrate sensitivity. This is where you can see some people can have big banana smoothie bowls and still achieve a weight loss goal because they are more carbohydrate sensitive, whereas others have to completely remove the banana and swap it in for something like cauliflower rice. It just depends on the person. And if you find that you are having quite a bit of fruit and you're not achieving your weight loss goals, then first things first, I'd recommend is just switching out the high sugar fruits for the low sugar fruits. So instead of having something like mango or papaya or banana, having lower sugar fruits like strawberries, raspberries, blackberries. So that's just a good thing to keep in mind, is seeing how your body responds to those fruits. Katie, that is hilarious, Susie. Me too. Okay, so Patricia says, I have textural issues with vegetables and I have a hard time consuming what I need. Any suggestions? Have you tried soups? That's one really great option. I have a really great broccoli detox soup in my 7-day intermittent fasting detox program. Generally, for most people, even if they don't like vegetables, they love it. So I would try soups because you can blend it up and emulsify it so you don't get that same texture. Really great questions, guys. Okay, I'm going to go over a couple more questions. I need a sip of coffee first. And guys, if you guys have been liking this video, if you could give the video a thumbs up, just really helps to spread the message, spread the word to other people on making sure that they can feel great again without having to limit what they're eating or eating foods that aren't supportive of their goals. So if you could give the video a thumbs up, would really, really help support the channel. Yeah, virtual. Yep, your broccoli soup is so good. Yeah, even if you don't like vegetables, generally most people really like the broccoli soup. So Renee said, is OMAD the same as IF? So IF is just a general category, or intermittent fasting is general category. There's time restricted eating, which is a type of intermittent fasting, which is where you're still eating every day, but you're eating during a smaller amount of time or a specific amount of time. So that's where it could be something like even a 12-hour fast is considered intermittent fasting, because you are in that time restricted period where you're eating during a certain amount of time and fasting during another. So this can be anywhere up until the OMAD is considered the time restricted eating version of intermittent fasting. So OMAD is technically intermittent fasting, but it's more time restricted. Then there's other options like a more extended fast or alternate day fast. Those extended fasts can have more of a place for more specific therapeutic purposes, but unless you're actually following that along with someone who can really tailor it to where you're at with your medical needs, I usually recommend just sticking with more of the time restricted form. So anywhere between 12-hour fast or even OMAD. Good question. Oops. Thank you. Definitely like the video and share. Yes, help spread the word. Help get more information out to more people. That's my main mission with Autumn Nutrition, is to help everyone. I mean, that's obviously a little lofty of a goal, but to really help everyone to see that they can eat the meals that they enjoy, they can feel satiated, and they can still achieve their weight loss and wellness goals. So it's just such a, with weight loss, it can be such a frustrating experience because there's so much information out there. So my goal is to provide science-backed information with actual actionable steps that you guys can take. And you guys sharing the videos, you guys liking the video really helps me to spread my message. So thank you guys. I really appreciate that. Yeah, D, also good recommendation. Regarding Patricia, what about grilling your veggies? Grilling is also really great. But if you really have some type of mental block around the fiber C component, then using soups is always a good option. Super Zero said, does kombucha break a fast? Yes, kombucha will break a fast. It does have sugar in it in order to kickstart that fermentation process. So anything that has sugar will break a fast. I actually also have, I think I did a video or a blog post specifically on this. So I think it was a video. I've done both, I'm pretty sure. But if you guys, I've mentioned this in the beginning, but if you guys ever have a question on, I wonder if this breaks a fast, I have a whole section on my blog titled, Does it break a fast? So you can just go to autumnmelnutrition.com/blog. And in that section, I have a whole category titled, Does it break a fast? Including kombucha. So if you ever have a question on that and you just need to know real quick, you can go check that out. Okay, great question. So this is for more of if you are using more advanced strategies for tracking ketones and such. But Jennifer is asking, what do you have to say about Keto Mojo results and what is normal versus concerning? I've been tracking, but my ketones tend to be 0.1 to 0.3 while eating your recipes. Is that lower than expected? Well, the program recipes are not specifically keto. They do have the lower sugar, most of them are zero sugar, but it's not specifically keto. You should check during the fasting period. That's when I would typically check the ketone levels to see how your body is utilizing fat as fuel during that time. But if you are looking for more ketone or keto specific types of meals, you might want to err more on the side of the broccoli emoji recipes that you'll see within my cookbooks. But 0.1 to 0.3, that's not in a state of nutritional ketosis. It's usually 0.5 that you want to look at. But I usually look at the fasting period to see if you're actually utilizing fat as fuel during the fasting period. That way you can get the benefits of both. Oops. Coconut Mana. Okay. So coconut Mana is coconut butter. It's just a type of brand for it. I use coconut butter in a lot of my smoothie recipes. If you're asking about it during a fast, it will also break a fast because it does have some amount of protein. And I believe it has a little bit of carbohydrate in there as well. So not sure on which direction you're asking, but if it's during a fast, then it would break a fast. If it's just in general, is it good? I love it as a high quality fat source. Yes. Can you make a future video on collagen and gelatin? Absolutely. I do want to talk more about that. It is a really good topic. I've been talking a little bit more about collagen and gelatin, especially in some of my later videos, but that is a really good one to dive more specifically into. JC, if changing from 3 meals to 2 meals, how do you add the extra protein to the 2 meals? So what I recommend is, first things first, knowing how much protein you need. So if you have, like, let's say 100 grams worth of protein that you need in a day, that usually you'd split between 30 to 35 grams of protein at each meal if you're following a 3-meal structure. Now you need to take that second meal that would be your middle meal in between that's being removed and put that protein into both your beginning and your end meals. I wouldn't recommend having it all front loaded with one meal or back loaded with another. So for example, not having like 30 grams of protein at one meal and 70 grams at another. It just can be really hard to consume that much protein at one meal. So instead, if you're following a 2-meal structure, just take your full protein needs and split it by 2 and put it in between your 2 meals. This is also something, so I have this on here just as a reminder. This is also something that I talk about in the new 6-week summer meal plan on how you can adjust based off of a 3-meal to a 2-meal structure, because protein specifically is the big one that you need to check out. So this is in the 6-week summer meal plan, down description below, 2 weeks left, limited release summer meal plan. Hi, Anne from Liverpool. Kayla, I have a video on this that I just shared. I also have quite a lot of blog posts on this topic as well. But if you, just as a quick overview for what are the different types of intermittent fast, how do you choose the best one for me? Actually, go to my blog. I have a quiz on this, how you can take a quiz and actually determine what type of intermittent fast will be best for you. So if you go to autumnnutrition.com/blog, and then you go to the quizzes section. So there's a tab for quizzes. There's one that literally says intermittent fasting quiz for intermittent fasting schedule quiz. It's a really great one to help determine what's going to be a good intermittent fasting schedule for you to start off with. Okay, like 1 or 2 more questions. So Nadia says, hey, Autumn, can you provide more alternatives to smoothies for breakfast and future plans? Winter's coming in. I'd love something warm. Absolutely. But have you tested out if you make in the 7-day IF detox, I have like a grain-free oatmeal alternative that you can use with hot, like coconut milk or hot water to make it warm. That's a really great option. Any of the egg scrambles are really great. I also have like break fast burrito options, but definitely I want to create more warm options as well. Good question. Okay, oops. Hanara says, or is asking, hi Autumn, is soy milk okay to use in smoothies or coffee? I would, if you're going to use soy milk, first I'll make sure that it's unsweetened and also make sure that it's organic. Just soy is one of the most heavily sprayed products that there is. So if you're going to use soy, just preferably try and make sure that it is organic and unsweetened. But I like to use my homemade coconut milk. I have a recipe and it's really, really easy. I know that sounds daunting. It's way easier than the nut milk options like almond milk, for example. But it's super simple. It takes about 5 minutes and it's homemade. So you know it's in it and it saves you money. So if you type how to make coconut milk, my video pops right up. And that's a really good one for you to use as well. But if you're using soy, just make sure it's organic and make sure that you're also using an unsweetened option. Can coconut butter be bad for skin and trigger acne? I've not seen it triggering acne unless you have a food sensitivity to it. So usually, and this is something I talked about in the carbohydrate sensitivity video, as well as the 10 signs you're eating too much sugar. Acne and breakouts are really strongly tied to hyperinsulinemia, which means high blood levels of insulin. So I would take a look at the sugar content more so than the coconut butter. But if you have narrowed it down to coconut butter, then it sounds like you might have a sensitivity to coconut specifically. Yeah, I'm a firm believer, I think you're saying believer of the Nuco wrap. So yeah, I use them, but I'll try the grain-free oatmeal for sure. Oh, so many really great questions. I'm going to answer one more because we're getting a little late here. Ooh, so many good questions. For the people asking about stevia, rewind about 30 minutes ago. I dive a lot into that. So here's a good question about flax milk. What do you think of flax milk in smoothies? I like using flax seeds. I know some people can be a little sensitive to flax seeds. So if you do well with flax seeds, you can definitely use flax milk, and that's a good option. But if you just see how your body responds. Some people do well with it, some people don't. So Cassie, so many good questions. I saw one about, okay, will the meal plans work for my family, especially my little ones, 9 and 10? I have so many clients, so many A and peeps that make the recipes for their families as well. It's all real food, all whole food, all optimized for protein and lower in sugar. So, it's a great option, especially the low sugar peanut butter chocolate chip cookies. A lot of kids really love the chilies. A lot of kids really love the smoothies. Kids really love, especially if you're using like Greek yogurt as the base. It's a good option for them. But yeah, great question. Cassie has a question about fiber, and she said, what can I do if fiber makes me constipated? I have a video on what you can do if you do suffer from constipation, but fiber actually usually doesn't make it a lot better. It can actually make it worse. So a big thing that it's such a complex topic. I would recommend checking out the video, but maybe I'll do another live stream on this in the future. But I don't recommend adding fiber supplements on top of what you're already eating if you do find that you're already suffering from constipation. But if you are taking fiber supplements, you definitely need to increase your water amount. Otherwise, it can just get stuck in the GI tract and cause further constipation. If you have a history of SIBO or small intestine bacterial overgrowth or bloating, likely the fiber is also just adding more fuel to the fire and giving more to the body, more to the bacteria that's already in there to ferment and cause bloating, which can then cause further issues with constipation. Yeah. Osman says, treat meal, not treat days. That was a really good one. Yeah, definitely. It's an easy one to forget about. Okay, guys, so this is the week 5 of the Summer Intermittent Fasting Challenge. I have one more week of doing these live streams. So if you guys can let me know in the comments below, in the chat, what it is that you want to see next time. I specifically pulled today's topic from the Facebook group. So if you guys are part of the Facebook group, then you'll see that I always poll you guys on what it is that you want me to talk about. Remember, there's only 2 weeks left to grab the 6-week summer meal plan before it's gone. You guys will have it for life, but it is a limited release meal plan. I have the details for it down description below. 6 weeks of meal by meal planning, brand new recipes, ton of really great protocols like the PMS protocol, what to do with treat meals, how to calculate your protein needs. So definitely check that out. That's down description below. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you. I hope you guys really liked this new setup that I have. It took a little bit for me to understand how to use it, but I think it's going to turn out well for future live streams. So remember, let me know what you guys want to see in next week's live stream, and I'll see you guys soon. All right. Thanks, guys.